The truth is that our deepest longing, which is difficult to consider, bearing in mind that we are so deeply divided within and carry such wounding within, but the truth remains that what we really long for, our deepest yearning for ourselves, is to be able to welcome everything home within us, to be able to welcome all aspects of ourselves home, and to find the deepest peace within ourselves in this existence. That's what we really long for, and the struggle is that we're not sure whether we can do that because of the pain of saying yes to what we feel and the pain of saying yes to what has happened without it crushing us or without us losing, I don't know, whatever sense we have of ourselves, and yet still that longing remains that calls us again and again and again. It calls us to the deepest acceptance of who we are and how we feel and what we think and what we do. And I'm certainly not talking on any superficial level. I'm talking about the absolute deepest acceptance, which comes as a journey generally, not as a one-shot deal. And we search often in therapy, definitely, and we search in awakening to see if it's possible that these things will allow us finally to come home to the deepest acceptance. But that requires transformation, and that does require a lot of surrender, and it does require us to step up in some ways, step down in other ways, and to start to learn to accept the way we feel about ourselves, the way we feel about others, the way we have felt in the past, the grievances, the hurts, the wounds, the sensitivity, the vulnerability, the anger, the rage. We don't have to be there. We act on those things when we're still trying to suppress them and keep them under control. But if we start maneuvering ourselves in a way, not mentally but energetically, towards realizing that if we want to live a life of peace, of acceptance, to move on, to flourish, to grow into who we really are, then these things need to be accepted. They're there anyway. When you consider that the grievances, the hurts, the wounds, the pains, they're there anyway, then we start to open the door to say, to acknowledge that my deepest longing is to come home to myself, is to fully accept myself as I am, without needing to understand everything, without needing to analyze or overanalyze every aspect of ourselves. Sure, analyzing, understanding, seeing into, looking for clarity, is all essential on the path. But we have to come back to the realization that our deepest longing is to welcome everything home. I've gone over this really quite a few times, and there's no other way. Ultimately, there has to be a yes. When Krishnamurti would say, "I don't mind what happens," he's referring to this. When the words, "in order to find God, you must welcome everything," came, not mine, of course, But that's what they're referring to. When Maharaji said, I love suffering, it brings me closer to God. It's not an indulgence of pain or suffering. It's that the welcoming of the opening, welcoming is maybe not the right word, but actually the capacity to open to the suffering brings us closer to ourselves, which is God. And so there's the acknowledgement that the deepest longing that we have is to say yes to what arises within us and to stop arguing with it or be led around into more trouble by it, to more suffering, by fighting. I can't handle this, I can't handle that. And it is difficult because we carry such energy in memory, the memory unprocessed stays in our energetic system. We could say in the body, but it's not really in the body, it's in just the energy system. The energy system of wound, of insult, of trauma, of hurt, of pain, of retraction. When our life force was somehow compromised, diminished, overpowered, and we shrank in some way in fear or in terror or in anger, the suppression of us. And that can turn into wounding, the repetition of wounding, and that lives in our energy system. So we learn ways of coping, we learn ways of strategizing our way through life, which are all very noble endeavors, and they're almost necessary for the human being to go through, to adopt. But then change starts to come. When change starts to come, a new invitation arrives in town. And this is the invitation to start to think about healing all of that. Because what we needed then, we don't need now. The protection that we needed then, the strategies that we needed then, we don't need now. And that means we can stop saying no, 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 in the ways that we did, and we can start considering at least saying yes, 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 yes. It's time. It's time for me to embrace myself. And that, and it's not easy, of course, because the wounds have this energy in them. But most have the capacity. We do have the capacity to do it. We have more strength, we have more courage, we have more capacity than we realize. And that needs to be activated by the yes. Courage is activated by the yes. Because there's the calling of the human being. And the deepest longing of the calling of the human being is to embrace all of those aspects of ourselves so that we're no longer at war with what is, no longer at war with ourselves, no longer at war with memory, hurt, pain, wound. And these aspects that we carry around no longer stay as the dominating force of our lives. And this is very powerful. It changes everything. It changes the way we move, it changes the way we relate, it changes the way we are, it changes the way we feel, it changes the system, it changes the nervous system, it changes every single aspect of us. And then we have to give ourselves to it. So I wanted to make this simple video to speak to the deepest longing, to come home to ourselves as we are. Bless you.